Salt. It's in your kitchen right now, sitting there in that shaker. Looking harmless, looking pure. But here's what most Australians don't know. Some of the most trusted salt brands on your supermarket shelves are far from safe. They're heavily processed, stripped of minerals, packed with chemical additives, and in some cases contaminated with substances that have no business being anywhere near your food. Salt is something you consume every single day. On your breakfast eggs, in your pasta water, sprinkled over your dinner. That means if you're using the wrong kind, you're exposing your body to the same unwanted chemicals and contaminants over and over again, without even realizing it. And it adds up, over months, over years, over decades. Most mainstream salt brands sold in Coles, Woolworths and IGA are ultra-refined. That means they've been stripped of their natural minerals, bleached to look pure, then fortified with synthetic additives to prevent clumping and extend shelf life. While these additives might seem harmless on the label, consistent daily exposure raises serious questions about long-term health effects that most people never even consider. Even worse, some Australian salts have been found to contain traces of heavy metals, microplastics, or are sourced from polluted environments. Yet they're still sold as everyday staples. Marketed as pure, as clean, as safe, when the reality is very different. Today's video is going to shatter that illusion. We're going to expose the 7 Australian salt brands you should never use again and explain exactly why they don't deserve a place in your kitchen, but we won't leave you hanging. At the end, we'll also reveal 2 genuinely safe salt options that are minimally processed, naturally mineral-rich, and actually worth your money. Before we dive in, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who still thinks salt is just salt. Trust me, by the end of this list, you'll never look at that container on your table the same way again. Let's expose them. Number 7. Saxa table salt, starting at number 8. Saxa table salt. This is one of the most common salts found in Australian households, which makes it one of the most concerning. Walk into any Woolworths or Coles and you'll see it. Bright blue container, trusted name, affordable price. Millions of Australians use it daily without a second thought. But here's what most people don't realise. Saxa table salt is heavily refined. That means during processing, it's stripped of nearly all naturally occurring minerals. Natural salt contains trace elements like magnesium, potassium, calcium, and iron. These minerals support hydration, muscle function, nerve signalling, and overall electrolyte balance. Saxa's refining process removes these entirely, leaving behind almost pure sodium chloride. Nothing else. After stripping the salt down, manufacturers then add anti-caking agents to prevent clumping. These agents may sound harmless, but they're synthetic additives that serve no nutritional purpose whatsoever. You're consuming them daily, meal after meal, without knowing it. Common anti-caking agents include sodium ferrocyanide, magnesium carbonate, and silicon dioxide. While these are approved for use, they're still synthetic chemicals your body doesn't need. Saxa also contains added iodine, which is introduced synthetically after processing. Now, iodine itself is important for thyroid function. But synthetic iodine behaves differently in the body than naturally occurring iodine found in whole foods, like seaweed or unrefined salts. For some people, excessive exposure to synthetic iodine may disrupt thyroid balance over time, especially when consumed daily without awareness. Another major issue is sourcing. Refined table salt, like Saxa, is often derived from industrial salt mines or evaporated brine that's processed at extremely high temperatures. This not only alters the salt's molecular structure, but can also introduce trace contaminants depending on the source and processing methods. Because Saxa salt is so finely ground, it dissolves rapidly and is incredibly easy to overuse. You don't realize how much you're adding until it's too late. This leads to excessive sodium intake without the natural satiety cues that come from using coarser, mineral-rich salts. Over time, this contributes to water retention, blood pressure concerns, and long-term cardiovascular stress. The bright white appearance of Saxa salt is often mistaken for purity, but in reality, it reflects how aggressively the salt has been processed. Natural salts tend to have subtle colour variations due to their mineral content. Saxa lacks this entirely. When you use Saxa table salt daily, you're essentially consuming a chemically altered product designed for shelf stability rather than human health. Over time, relying on this type of salt crowds out more balanced mineral intake and reinforces the idea that salt is only sodium, which is simply not true. Number 6. Cerebos iodized table. Salt coming in at number 7, Cerebos iodized table salt. Another Australian household name that's been around for generations. Your parents probably used it. Your grandparents definitely used it. It's cheap, widely available, and heavily marketed as a trusted staple, but that doesn't mean it's healthy. In fact, it's exactly the type of salt that makes people think all salt is harmless, when the truth is the complete opposite. The main issue with Cerebos is that it's heavily refined. Unlike natural sea salt or unrefined rock salt, Cerebos goes through intense industrial processing that strips away almost all of its natural minerals. What remains is mostly sodium chloride, pure salt with nothing else. This is important because natural salts contain minerals like magnesium, potassium, and calcium that help balance your body's electrolytes. When you rely on refined table salt, you're getting only sodium without the support of minerals. This can lead to dehydration, muscle cramps, and long-term electrolyte imbalance. Another major problem is the anti-caking agents. Cerebos contains additives to prevent clumping, such as silicon dioxide and other synthetic chemicals. These are added to keep the salt flowing smoothly in humid conditions. But they're not something your body needs. In fact, consuming these chemicals daily can contribute to inflammation and digestive issues over time. When you're trying to live a cleaner lifestyle, why add chemicals to something as basic as salt? Cerebos also contains added iodine, which many people think is automatically a good thing. While iodine is essential for thyroid function, the iodine added in processed table salt is often artificial and can cause problems if you already get enough from your diet. Most Australians today already consume iodine through dairy products, seafood, eggs, and iodized bread. So adding extra iodine through Cerebos can lead to thyroid stress and hormonal imbalance, especially if you're sensitive or already have thyroid issues. And because Cerebos is very fine and dissolves quickly, it's easy to use more than you need. You may not even realize how much salt you're adding to your meals. Over time, this excessive sodium intake can contribute to high blood pressure, water retention, and serious heart problems. The packaging makes it look trustworthy. The blue and white container, the familiar logo, but inside it's just another ultra-processed salt stripped of minerals and packed with additives. Cerebos. Table salt is not a healthy choice. It's highly processed, nutritionally empty, and loaded with unnecessary chemicals. Number 5. Coles iodized table salt at number 6. Coles iodized table salt. The supermarket home brand, it's cheap, really cheap, often under $2 for a large container. And Australians buy it thinking they're getting a bargain. But here's the truth, cheap doesn't mean good. In fact, with salt, cheap usually means heavily processed and nutritionally worthless. Like most store-brand table salts, Coles salt is ultra-refined. That means it's stripped of all naturally occurring trace minerals during production. What you're left with is nearly pure sodium chloride, which the body processes very differently than mineral-rich salt. The refining process involves washing, heating, and chemical treatment to ensure uniformity and long shelf life. After refinement, the salt is treated with anti-caking agents to keep it free-flowing. These additives are designed for storage and appearance, not for consumption. And they accumulate in your diet over time because salt is used so frequently in cooking and seasoning. Coles salt also contains added synthetic iodine, which is not the same as iodine found naturally in foods like sea vegetables, fish, or unrefined salts. For people sensitive to iodine fluctuations, this can contribute to thyroid stress when consumed consistently over months and years. Another concern is quality control. Store-brand salts are often sourced from the cheapest available suppliers, which may include salt derived from industrial evaporation processes that prioritize volume and cost efficiency over purity. You have no idea where this salt actually comes from or how it was processed. Because the salt is ground extremely fine, it's easy to oversalt food without realizing it. This increases sodium intake quickly, which can contribute to bloating, dehydration, and long-term cardiovascular strain. The lack of mineral balance means your body doesn't receive the electrolytes that naturally help regulate fluid balance. This makes sodium's negative effects more extreme. The marketing of Coles salt focuses on affordability, not nutrition. And that's the problem. It encourages overuse and dependence on a nutritionally empty product. The bright white appearance is again misleading. It signals heavy processing rather than cleanliness or purity. Over time, using a salt like Coles reinforces poor dietary patterns by replacing mineral-rich options with a product that delivers sodium without any supporting nutrients. When salt is something you consume every single day, quality matters. Coles iodized. Table salt may save you money at checkout, but it costs you balance and health in the long run. Number 4. Woolworths Essentials iodized salt. Number 5. Woolworths Essentials iodized salt. Another supermarket brand that looks harmless but carries all the same hidden problems as Coles and other refined salts. And in some ways it's even worse because people trust the Woolworths name and assume they're getting decent quality. Woolworths Essentials salt is ultra-refined, just like the others. It's stripped of all natural minerals during processing. What remains is almost entirely sodium chloride. No magnesium, no potassium, no calcium, no trace elements, just pure sodium that your body has to process without any mineral support. After stripping the salt down, manufacturers add anti-caking agents to prevent clumping. These synthetic chemicals are consumed daily by anyone using the salt regularly, even though they provide absolutely no health benefit. Common additives include magnesium carbonate and silicon dioxide. While approved, they're still foreign substances your body doesn't need. Woolworths salt also includes synthetic iodine added after processing, and here's the problem. Most Australians already get sufficient iodine from other sources. Bread in Australia is fortified with iodine. Dairy products contain iodine. Seafood is rich in iodine, so adding extra through refined table salt can lead to iodine overload, which stresses the thyroid and can cause hormonal imbalance over time. The extremely fine texture makes it very easy to overuse. It dissolves instantly and blends into food quickly, so you don't realize how much you're actually consuming. This leads to excessive sodium intake, which increases blood pressure, causes water retention, and puts strain on your cardiovascular system. Another issue is sourcing transparency. Woolworths doesn't clearly disclose where their salt comes from or how it's processed. It's likely sourced from the cheapest available industrial suppliers, which prioritize cost over quality. This means you have no idea about potential contaminants or processing methods used. The bright white appearance creates a false impression of purity, but in reality, it's a sign of aggressive chemical processing and mineral removal. Natural salts have subtle variations in colour due to their mineral content. Woolworths Essential salt has none of that. When you're using this salt every day for cooking, seasoning and baking, You're consuming a nutritionally empty product designed for shelf stability and profit margins, not for your health. It's cheap for a reason. And that reason is strip minerals, synthetic additives, and industrial processing. Number 3. McKenzie's table salt. At number 4, McKenzie's table salt. This brand is commonly found in the baking aisle at Woolworths and Coles, and many Australians use it without thinking twice. It's affordable, widely available, and marketed as a basic pantry staple. But like the others we've covered, it's heavily refined and stripped of any nutritional value. McKenzie's table salt goes through the same intensive refining process that removes all naturally occurring minerals. What you're left with is nearly pure sodium chloride. No trace elements, no mineral balance, just isolated sodium that your body absorbs more aggressively because there's nothing to buffer its effects. After refinement, the salt is treated with anti-caking agents to ensure it stays dry and free-flowing. These are synthetic additives designed to prevent clumping, not to improve your health. You're consuming these chemicals daily without even knowing it. McKenzie's also contains added synthetic iodine. While iodine is essential, the form used in refined table salt is artificial and can cause issues when consumed excessively. Most Australians already get enough iodine from fortified bread, dairy, and seafood. Adding more through refined table salt can lead to thyroid problems, especially for people who are sensitive or already dealing with thyroid conditions. The extremely fine grain makes it easy to oversalt food. It dissolves quickly and spreads evenly, which sounds convenient, but actually makes it difficult to control how much you're using. Over time, this leads to excessive sodium intake without the satiety cues that come from coarser, mineral-rich salts. Another concern is that McKenzie's, like other budget salts, is sourced from industrial salt suppliers that prioritise volume and cost efficiency. There's no transparency about where the salt comes from, how it's processed, or what quality controls are in place. The bright white colour is often mistaken for cleanliness and purity, but in reality, it's a sign of heavy processing and mineral loss. Natural salts have colour variations due to their mineral content. McKenzie's lacks this entirely. When you use McKenzie's table salt as your primary seasoning, you're choosing convenience and low price over nutritional quality. And because salt is used in nearly every meal, this decision compounds over time, contributing to electrolyte imbalance and increased cardiovascular stress. Number 2. Chicken salt. Chicken salt has become a cultural icon in Australia. Sprinkled over hot chips, fried chicken and takeaway meals, it's a nostalgic flavour many people grew up loving. But behind that familiar taste is not a quality salt. It's a highly engineered seasoning blend that has very little in common with natural, minimally processed salt. A quick look at the ingredient list reveals the issue. Chicken salt is not simply salt. It is typically a mixture of refined table salt, artificial flavourings, flavour enhancers, colouring agents, and sometimes added sugar or starch. The signature yellow colour doesn't come from minerals or natural sources. It's the result of added pigments designed to make the product visually distinctive. What's marketed as salt is, in reality, an industrial flavour powder built for mass appeal. The heavy reliance on refined salt is another concern. The salt base is usually ultra-processed sodium chloride stripped of natural trace minerals. Instead of preserving any natural character, the product is designed to deliver an intense, uniform salty punch, boosted further by flavour additives that encourage overuse. The result is a seasoning that easily overwhelms food, rather than enhancing it. There's also the question of transparency. Chicken salt blends rarely provide detailed sourcing information for their ingredients. Consumers have little insight into where the salt comes from, how the flavour compounds are produced, or what quality controls are applied. For a product used frequently in everyday meals, that lack of clarity matters. From a culinary perspective, chicken salt also flattens flavour rather than elevating it. Natural salts can bring subtle mineral notes and texture differences that interact with food. Chicken salt replaces that nuance with a single dominant taste profile: salty, savoury, and artificial. Once accustomed to it, many foods can seem bland without it, creating a dependence on intense seasoning rather than real ingredient quality. None of this means chicken salt is inherently dangerous, but it does mean it's far removed from real salt, natural seasoning, or transparent food production. It represents convenience, engineered taste, and mass processing, not craftsmanship or authenticity. For those who care about what they put on their food, chicken salt is less a kitchen staple and more a reminder of how far modern seasoning has drifted from its natural roots. Number 1. David's Kosher Salt. David's Kosher Salt has become a familiar name in many kitchens. Its coarse texture and easy pinchability have earned it popularity among home cooks and chefs alike. But popularity does not automatically mean quality. When you take a closer look, David's Kosher Salt is less a natural culinary ingredient and more a highly processed industrial product. The first issue lies in how it's made. Kosher salt, like David's, is typically produced through intensive refining methods that strip away naturally occurring trace minerals found in unprocessed sea salts or rock salts. What remains is almost pure sodium chloride, uniform, predictable, and visually clean, but nutritionally empty. While trace minerals are only present in small amounts in natural salts, they contribute to flavour complexity and a more balanced profile. With David's Kosher Salt, that depth is simply gone. Another concern is the emphasis on texture over substance. The large flaky grains are designed for convenience in seasoning, not for nutritional or natural integrity. This focus on usability often masks the reality that the product is engineered for consistency, shelf stability, and mass production, not for preserving what salt is in its natural state. Then there's the broader issue of transparency. Most mainstream refined salts provide limited information about sourcing or environmental conditions of extraction. Consumers are left trusting the brand without clear insight into where or how the raw material originated. For a product consumed daily, that lack of traceability matters. Flavour is also a point of disappointment for those who compare it to minimally processed alternatives. Natural sea salts and mineral-rich rock salts carry subtle variations in taste, reflecting their origin. David's Kosher Salt, by contrast, delivers a flat, one-note saltiness. It does the job of salting food, but offers nothing beyond that basic function. None of this makes David's Kosher Salt dangerous, but it does make it uninspiring, over-refined, and disconnected from the natural qualities that better salts retain. For anyone seeking ingredients that are closer to nature, richer in character, and more transparent in origin, there are simply better options available. In the end, David's Kosher Salt represents convenience over quality, and your kitchen deserves more than that. Healthy alternative number 1, Murray River Salt. If you're tired of eating salt that's basically a chemical cocktail, Murray River Salt is the clean Australian alternative you've been looking for. Unlike the table salt you find in most kitchens, which is heavily processed, bleached and packed with anti-caking agents, Murray River Salt is naturally harvested from underground saline aquifers in the Murray-Darling Basin. This salt retains its natural mineral profile, including trace amounts of magnesium, potassium and calcium. These aren't just extras, they're minerals your body needs to regulate hydration, muscle function and nerve signalling. When you switch to Murray River Salt, you're not just changing flavour, you're upgrading the quality of the salt you're putting in your body. Now let's talk about the biggest issue with most store-bought salts. Processing. Table salt goes through an intense refining process that strips away minerals and then adds back synthetic iodine and chemicals to keep it from clumping. The result is a product that's far from natural. Murray River salt, on the other hand, is minimally processed and free from additives. The distinctive peachy pink colour comes from natural mineral content and carotene from the salt-tolerant algae in the region. It's also non-iodized, which is important because many Australians already get enough iodine from other sources. If you're someone who experiences sensitivity, bloating, or that chemical taste from processed salts, this switch can make a noticeable difference. Another reason Murray River salt stands out is the flavour. Since it's unrefined, the taste is cleaner and more natural, without that sharp metallic bite you get from cheap table salts. Because it tastes stronger and more complex, you may actually end up using less of it. That's a big deal because reducing overall sodium intake is one of the best ways to support heart health and blood pressure. And unlike processed salts, Murray River salt does not contain anti-caking agents like sodium ferrocyanide or silicon dioxide, which are commonly used in table salt and have questionable safety for daily consumption. Murray River salt also offers multiple grain sizes, including fine grain and flake salt, so you can use it for cooking, seasoning, and finishing. The flake version is especially great for meats and vegetables because it adds a clean crunch and rich flavour without the chemical aftertaste. Plus, it dissolves evenly so you don't get those clumpy pockets of salt that make your food taste uneven. Bottom line, if you're serious about cutting out toxins and chemicals from your pantry, Murray River salt is one of the easiest and most effective swaps you can make. It's Australian made, naturally harvested, mineral rich, and simply tastes better. Your body will thank you, and your meals will taste cleaner and more flavourful without any of the nasty additives found in standard table salts. Healthy alternative number 2, Olsson's sea salt. If you've been buying processed table salt just because it's cheap and available, it's time to stop and upgrade to something that's actually cleaner and more natural. Olsson's sea salt is the best alternative because it's unrefined, naturally harvested, and completely free from the weird additives you get in most grocery store salts. Unlike many salts that are heavily marketed but still processed, Olsson's sea salt comes from pristine seawater in South Australia's Great Australian Bight and the Eyre Peninsula. The water is evaporated naturally using solar power and time-honoured methods. That means you're getting a salt that's closer to what nature intended. Clean, mineral-rich and free from synthetic ingredients. The first thing you'll notice when switching to Olsson's sea salt is the flavour. It tastes cleaner and more balanced compared to regular table salt, which often has a metallic aftertaste because of the refining process and added chemicals. This is important because when salt tastes better, you naturally use less of it. And yes, even though the goal is to reduce sodium intake, you still need salt for electrolyte balance, hydration, and muscle function. The difference is that Olsson's sea salt gives you the salt you need without the junk. Now let's talk about what makes most common salts unhealthy. Table salt is typically stripped of minerals and then treated with additives like anti-caking agents to prevent clumping. These chemicals keep the salt flowing freely in humid conditions, but they add nothing beneficial to your diet. Olsson's sea salt is completely free from these additives. It's just pure sea salt, with naturally occurring minerals intact. Olsson's is also non-iodized, which gives you control over your iodine intake. Many Australians already get sufficient iodine from bread, dairy and seafood. Adding extra through iodized salt can lead to thyroid imbalance. Olsson's allows you to avoid that issue while still getting the minerals your body needs. Olsson's sea salt also comes in different textures like fine grain, flake salt and gourmet finishing salts. The fine grain works great for everyday seasoning and cooking. The flake salt is perfect for finishing dishes and adding that final crunch and flavour burst. You can use it for everything from roasted vegetables to grilled steak to fresh salads. Another thing that sets Olsson's apart is their commitment to sustainability and quality. They've been producing sea salt in Australia for over 30 years, and they maintain strict quality controls to ensure every batch meets their high standards. You're not just getting clean salt, you're supporting an Australian family business that cares about the product they're putting on your table. If you want a salt that's natural, clean, Australian-made, and truly beneficial, Olsson's sea salt is the one to choose. It's minimally processed, mineral-rich, and free from synthetic additives. It's what salt is supposed to be. Alright guys, that's a wrap on the 7 Australian salt brands you should avoid at all costs, and the 2 clean, safe alternatives you can switch to right now. If you're serious about your health, this is one of those simple changes that makes a huge difference over time. You're not just avoiding harmful additives, you're upgrading your entire kitchen with cleaner ingredients that actually support your body. And look, I know it's easy to ignore something as small as salt, but this is one of those hidden dangers that most people don't even think about. You use it every single day, multiple times a day, and if you're using the wrong kind, that exposure adds up fast. So if you found this video useful and you're starting to realize how much junk is hidden in everyday products, make sure you hit that like button. It helps the channel a lot, and it tells me you want more content like this. Also, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications because we're always dropping new videos exposing the truth behind the products you use every day. If you want more avoid at all costs lists or want me to cover a specific category, drop it in the comments below and I'll make it happen. And finally, share this video with your family and friends because once you know the truth, you can't unknow it. If you want to live healthier, you've got to start with the basics, and salt is one of the biggest basics. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay smart, stay healthy, and keep rising.